Thanks, everyone. I call the Mashpee School Committee Business Meeting of December 20th, 2017 to order. It's 6:30. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Doesn't look like we have any public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, please, to fix the time of adjournment at 8:15 to go into executive session, not to return to public session.
Bold move.
I can do that.
I'll second it.
What can't we not see over?
I gotta move that thing.
Okay, I'll do it.
Someone seconded it?
I did.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion to fix the time at 8:15 per the schedule in regard to going into executive session. That motion has been seconded by Nicole, moved by George. Any discussion?
There's no discussion on the motion to fix the time to adjourn, sir.
There is no,
It's not, the motion is not debatable or amendable. Yes, I had a 17-hour...
It's an amazing book, yeah.
I had a 17-hour flight each way.
all right.
I'm glad.
So all you're doing is fixing the time of adjournment as to what it is on the agenda?
That's correct, for this week.
Anything that we don't get to would have to be postponed
That's correct.
Right,
to the next meeting.
right.
All right.
All right. No other questions or anything? Let's go ahead and vote then. Nicole?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And yes. All right, we'll be done by 8:15
That
then,
was a lot easier than I
or
thought.
sooner.
Thank you.
All right,
You can't
next
discuss it, so I
item
can't say anything.
is report of the administrator. We're starting early, so
Okay. First thing on the agenda is the budget to actual, the FY18 budget. As we're moving along through the school year, if you go through and basically I'll just give an overview and then I'll entertain any questions that you see. Most of the schools are at like 65% expended. So that's pretty common for this time of the year. They tend to, there are certain things that they purchase, like clay for the art rooms and so forth, that might go bad. They purchase it throughout the year. And so they're pretty much right on track. And around March 1st, I'll be looking to kind of close them out, tell them to order their last paper order for the year. Moving on to page 9, just to give you a heads up on the health supplies at the high school, you'll notice that that's in a deficit of $2,032.26. That's because of a grant that we share with Monomoy. So when we pay the bills, we send them invoices and they reimburse us, so it'll go back on. And I checked with accounts payable, and they had about billed out to Monomoy about $2,332. So that'll come back. Everything else seems to be in line. I have some transfers that will take care of some of the deficits tonight, further on down in the meeting. Are there any questions? I'll entertain questions.
can you just give us an update on out of district?
Yep. If you want to, let me turn to that page. We're in very good shape. I mean, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what's going to happen. But right now, if you go to page
26.
18, 20,
26.
26, No, I-
Handwritten.
Yeah, on the,
21. I'm sorry. I have 21. He's talking about the out-of-districts,
yeah, not school choice.
not
Oh, I'm
school
sorry.
choice,
I'm sorry,
out-of-districts.
School choice, my error.
Okay. If you look at the bottom of page 21, you'll notice that those are the out-of-districts, the three lines, the Mass Public Schools, private schools, and the collaborative. If you look just below those three schools, you'll see a balance of $85,090.04. That's where you are right now. That will increase slightly, maybe by $4,000 or $5,000, because a student went from one out-of-district to another out-of-district, which was lower in value, so. But, you know, for this time of the year, we're coming up at the end of January, we'll be halfway through the year, to have a balance of $85,090 is pretty good.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So the encumbrances are our anticipated costs?
Those are anticipated costs, yeah. And you can see, when we use the circuit breaker, we just pay the bills whatever comes first.
Right.
So I'll be asking for a transfer later on to cover those minuses, and just kind of get that straightened out. And, you know, I kind of just do it to the dollars, because I don't know if we have an out-of-district, it could go to a private school, it could go to a collaborative, go to mass school, so I'll probably just leave that. Other questions?
What's the school committee other that's in
The
Deb's
mass
deficit?
policy.
That's the mass policy and the, and your membership, I believe, is that on the next page?
Because I know we have
Yeah,
PD,
yeah.
a PD line item and another line item. I'm just
Yeah, right.
curious.
On the other line item, that's your MASC dues, and we did the policy manual. They were going to update it.
It's 3,500 this year.
And that comes out of the other?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So you only have really two accounts there.
Got it.
Any other questions? Moving on to revolving accounts. The revolving accounts are basically the community school is our summer school, and our adult, any adult education that we have. Athletics, those are receipts that we've had. Lost book account is self-explanatory. The preschool account, pretty self-explanatory. Facilities, that's from receipts of rental. School choice, we'll get into that when I go over to the page to where I list everything. Non-resident tuition, that's at the high school. And the privately funded grants, Cape Cod 5, those are the teachers' accounts. Quashnet has a couple of grants that were donated money, funds. Media access, that's what we get from Comcast, or the town gives us from Comcast. Career to school, that's Mr. Looney's, and KCC donation. Going to the grants, we received notice this week that we will not be getting the grant number, it's grant number 5 on the top there. Grant number 298, it's EC SPED Program Improvement. We did not qualify for that grant. I'm going to show you later on in the meeting that the grants have really disappeared. There's less and less. So I'll defer to that later on. Any questions on grants?
If you don't know, that's fine, but you don't know off the top of your head what changed to make us not qualified anymore, do you?
I don't have it with me. I did have, I did see the
I can tell you.
Oh, you can? Okay,
Yeah,
'cause-
because it was a special ed grant, so they have a much smaller pot of money from the federal government, so they changed, it used to be an entitlement grant based on, everyone got it, but you got it, a certain amount based on your size, and now they're only giving it to programs that participate in the SSIP, which we don't, and it's not something we could. It's people who are, schools that are in worse shape than we are.
Okay.
How much was it last time?
That I'd have to get back to you on.
Did we have an amount included in our anticipated expenditures for this
No,
year?
not on that grant. I'll give you the amount right now.
Okay.
I should have it here. 298. FY '17, it was $1,400.
Okay, so it's not a big number. All right, thank you.
Any other questions on the grants? The next thing on the agenda is the transfers, budget transfers. These are just basically transfers to take care of negative balances in each of the schools. So you can see the first two, 500 and 800, you see it coming out of general supplies and principal's office contractual, and increasing the guidance, which was $500 negative, and the principal's office other. So it's just a matter of moving the money. The next two, coming out of system-wide telephone, $2,622. We had two. We had a technology deficit of $1,275, and KCC building maintenance, $1,347. So that'll take care of that. And two tuition, Mass Public School and private school, that was just from the circuit breaker money. Just happened to put those into deficits. So that's the only, and I will need a vote on this.
So do I have a motion?
Move to approve transfer 18-02 is written.
Second.
Motion by
Jeff.
Jeff and a second by George to approve the transfer as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none? Nicole?
Yes.
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 Yes. Unanimous, approved.
School choice expenditures, it's on page 26. If you look down at the bottom of the page, where it says balance, there was a current balance of $392,149. We had encumbrances of $57,718.79. Those have not been paid yet, so you will not see them up above. And then the FY balance is $334,430. Of that $334,430, $125,428, which are the four receipts at the top and at the bottom, the 125,428. I take that out because that's FY 18's circuit breaker money, which we always spend in the next year. So I pull that out, so we have a balance of $209,002.53 to spend this year.
You mean FY18 school choice,
No, FY 18 school choice,
not circuit breaker, right?
Well,
no, this is choice. Oh, I said circuit breaker.
Yeah, I'm just making sure.
sorry, I
Yeah, gotcha.
apologize. No, it's choice. We have a balance of $209.53. That 125 is money that's earmarked for next year to offset the budget. All right. Any questions? Just, just,
Are you surprised?
no, yeah, I'm kind of surprised.
Thank you.
I looked
I do that.
This, we're going to talk about the FY19 budget. We have a couple of, so what I've done here is we started off, we presented to you the superintendent's, I'll call it the superintendent's budget, which it is, of a 2.97 increase. Now, the 2.97 increase did have choice money offsetting our technology. But other than that, we still had, that was $165,000. And we were going to use the other funds for possibly technology or other items that the school committees saw fit to fund with the balance of the choice money. So we started at the 2.97, and I thought I did a pretty good job. And then I came to the school committee meeting, and I was told to put the $425,000 that we were reduced in the FY18 budget back in, and then, which would have been a 4.35, would have been a 4.35 increase in the school budget. And then I also showed that if we had gotten 2%, I believe it was, over the, over 18 and 19, we would only be looking at 2.26 in the budget. But because it was cut all the way down, which would be half, almost, a little better than half of the 4.35. If we had spread that over the 2 years, we would have been in a lot better shape. So that was the school committee's budget. I called that, and you'll notice at the bottom, I have it labeled school committee budget. I didn't know if that was going to get by. And then the superintendent sent me to a meeting where I received the town manager's budget. And his budget is 1.77. And the way that I came up with the 1.77, what I did is I put everything into the budget. In other words, everything is in there. Camp Falcon is in there. The technology that we took out, put that back in. And then I looked at all the offsets that we had. So when I talk about all the offsets, I'm talking about circuit breaker money, which is an offset we offset it to the outer districts. It's a sped offset. We have choice money, which I offsetted against the total budget. And the other offset is athletics. Any revenue that comes into the athletics, I now have it that he gives me a total budget that he needs. Coach Treveri gives me a total budget, and then I offset it by projected revenues each year. So that's how we came down to a bottom figure. So I put everything in there, and then I offset it by the $975,000. That's $450,000 in circuit breaker. It's $500,000 in choice, and then the athletic receipts are $25,000. That was the offset for the athletics. So that's how I get the $975,000. So everything goes back in the budget, then it comes out. So we get a budget of $21,239,520, and this is, I'm sure this is the way the town manager, this isn't rocket science, so I'm sure he did it the same way. And that's how we come up with the 1.77. That does not allow for any things that we might want to do with that choice money, because I have to use all that choice money to just cover
Expense line item.
expenses. Yeah.
For the circuit breaker, though, are we now spending next year's circuit breaker to get this 450?
No,
Or are you just adding this back into the budget and taking it out, which is really what you're doing already anyway?
right,
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
circuit breaker,
okay,
that's
okay.
exactly what I'm doing.
Got it, okay.
In other words, I would do the budget. If you look at the budget, you see a minus
Yeah.
450. Well, that's the money that we're accumulating this year.
Got it.
That will apply against the,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for the benefit of the committee, the working group, I finally get that title right, met, and we had to come up with some sort of a schedule. And the next meeting that we have is January 3rd. And at that meeting, we have to make some sort of an indication of which one of these we want to forward to the newspaper for the school department, for the school committee's budget. We have to have that in there by that Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. I believe we got
January 4th.
January 4th. The open meeting, the public meeting on the budget would be the following meeting, which is January 17th. And then we would have to take a final vote on the budget as to what the budget is going to be on February 7th. One of my tasks was to request a meeting time with the Finance Committee. I was in touch with the chairman. He said he would get back to me. I requested February 8th. May as well get it off sooner than later. He will get back to me if that date is acceptable to the Finance Committee. Now, as far as this budget is concerned, it is level service, from last year to this year. There have been three requests for additional personnel. One is a mandatory. We really don't have any choice on it. It's in the special education area. We currently are doing this by contracting out the work. The firm that's doing the contracting work will no longer be doing it as of the end of June this year, so we have to do something. The assistant superintendent has said that we would need someone in the range of about $80,000, roughly, masters plus 15 or something like that, at some sort of a step level in order to fulfill that position. There's really nothing that we can do about this. This is just something that's mandated by the federal, and it's something we're just going to have to do. The second position would be a part-time position, estimated 18 hours a week. That position would be to repair computers, basically, mainly Chromebooks. We could contract that out and it would cost more. So it just seems to make sense to do this, the cheaper alternative, the 18. And the third is a request from our newest member, and I'll let her give us a little background of why she would like to put that in there.
And none of these are in the budget right now.
None of these are in the
No,
budget.
none of them are in the budget,
Yeah.
no.
I submitted a description to Paul, I guess when was that? September, October, maybe?
Yep.
And Paul told me it wasn't going to be in the budget, so I just assumed it wasn't in the budget. But
It isn't now.
Yeah, it was a recommendation to have a volunteer coordinator akin to a full-time position that exists in Falmouth to manage their Volunteers in Public Schools program. We used to have one, but Superintendent Hyde did away with it a few years ago. Patty saw value in bringing it back, and so we kind of talked about what that would entail. And then I think, with the, as I understand it, with the Southport Falcons and things like that, right now, they are handling the coordination of that outside of the school?
No, it's sort of central office. Gail
Oh.
Hannon is doing a lot of that.
Yeah. So some of what a position like that would do would be able to coordinate volunteers for all of our schools, not just, one or the other, but not only that, but we would have a better understanding of the actual volunteer hours that are being contributed to our schools, which I think the principals might be able to calculate now, but no one's actually tracking it on an ongoing basis, so there would be some level of effort there. I think it would provide opportunities for more community service for our high school kids in terms of, college applications. And also just give us some more official presence, connection to the community that was more defined and, sort of a single point of entry in terms of volunteers in Mashpee schools like some of the other districts do. So that's what I had envisioned when I proposed it, but Paul said there wasn't any room in the budget for that.
Are you envisioning a full-time or part-time position?
I think we talked about full-time, but not super
Is that
senior.
Like 195 days, around 55,000.
Yeah.
All right. And
The reason,
George, what was the, you have a dollar amount for the 18 hours?
Around 20, right?
around 20, 25 roughly.
25?
That's rough. And the reason I bring all of these out is that when we vote on the budget, we are going to have to decide. The town manager requested that we provide a level service budget. A level service budget is everything that we've got now, but these three would be additional. And if we intend to do one or two or three of those, I feel that we do have to disclose that when we're making the presentation to the town manager and to the finance committee.
I think only if we add the IT and the volunteer do we have to consider that a change in services.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Because the special ed one is.
Special ed
It's
is
already,
kind
it's
of-
already there,
kind
just
of there.
unfortunately, we
It's
had to swap from a contractor to an in-house, so.
Okay.
Right, because we're already, it's already budgeted
It's already
as a
done.
contractor, right?
Not at the, not
Not
at
the
that,
same
not at that
We're
value.
talking about.
Oh,
We're
not at
talking
that-
about 20,000 at the, on the.
Oh.
It'd be an increase of about 60
Yeah,
grand. to
But
bring some-
just to defend that, we're seeing more and more students that need this service.
Okay. So we're talking two full-time and one half, or a part-time
Less than
person?
half-time, yeah.
So
No, one, no benefits.
So we'd have two with benefits that the
Which
town would
one's
be
that?
picking. in.
Which one's the?
The tech.
The tech.
Part-time person.
Anyone under, I believe it's 20 hours.
20 hours.
20 hours, yeah.
Wouldn't qualify for town benefits, but the other two. All right.
I think it's worth noting that, I mean, Southport is a pretty unique place in Mashpee, but we got that kind of interest from just this one segment of
Many
Mashpee. I
pockets.
think it really serves as a model for other places in the town, and it tells me that there's a willingness on the part of, the retired community to really support our schools, and given, the budget forecast, I think that's something we can't afford to turn down.
Yeah, because the broad concept and the meetings, those are sort of easy to happen, but then when you get to actually taking action steps and getting it coordinated on an individual basis, there's a tremendous amount that goes into that a principal can't take on. But they are anxious and willing to help students one-on-one or in a classroom, and that used to be what I saw in the previous position as requiring processing all the people, making sure they have, all the right paperwork done, and just, it's the level of customer service that I would want to be able to provide our volunteers. Otherwise, there can be frustration, and then there's disappointment, and it's not a good, positive partnership, no.
Yeah, I agree, because when we had that position filled full-time, there was that presence everywhere, all the events.
Right.
She was there at everything. That's really how I got involved volunteering, was because I knew where to go. Not saying anything against Gail, because she's fantastic at what she does on a full-time basis, but this is something she's taken on, kind of trying to work it into her already busy schedule. So to have somebody that's dedicated to that, it really made a huge difference in, exposure and people knowing where to go and who to contact. And I'm sure, helped out the central office a lot too, so I definitely agree.
A couple of other things that happened, and Jeff has got a chart that I'd like him to talk about, because he was one that designed it, that is all this effort. But we did make a couple of other suggestions within the committee. I don't know if we have to eventually put them up for vote or not. But one was that for now on, any conversation with the town about anything to do with the budget will be done through one person, which is Paul Funk or his designate. And there was one other thing we decided, and I forgot to bring the piece of paper.
What we were gonna recommend.
Yeah, we have it.
Recommend,
yeah.
I'm sorry,
I was a
recommend.
good note taker.
Yes.
Well, I got
Doc.
that, yeah, I didn't know if we wanted to bring this up now or during the,
Okay.
Oh, and the other part of
Goals,
it, I
but-
see what you mean,
yeah.
okay.
Could I just finish?
absolutely.
Sorry, Paul.
No problem. It's just the graph. I just wanted to, on the last page, I just wanted to show you that I just wanted to see what the spread was going to look like, and I know my working group has seen this, but the blue line is if we got a 2.5% increase each year,
2%.
and then the increases that we actually got. And you can see as it was starting to go up, 18, 19, 17, and 16, we're starting to break away, and it's starting to get much wider. So that shows that for a lot of the technology that we've received over the last 3 or 4 years, it's coming out of choice. Because this is, just strictly the budget. And if we ever, lost choice or anything, that keeps getting wider each year, and that would be a huge impact on the town. So what we've done in the past is we've tried to use the choice money to do things that we wouldn't ordinarily do. We'd have to go through the town, asking them for large sums of money, like to buy the Chromebooks, the touch screens, and whatever. So.
Is the FY19 red line the town manager's
Yes.
budget?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's, so I could show that spread. Okay.
I mean, if we go back to 2013, that was close to the high point, right, as far as student population?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Because I know that it's trended down, but here over the last couple of years, or 3 years, I think, we pretty much have stabilized
Right.
at around 1650-ish. Because at our high point, we were over, I think, 2200. We've come down quite a bit from there, but our budget.
Right, I understand that, but it's, you're not going to be able to do away with a teacher if you lose 2 or 3 kids.
No, I know.
And the choice,
Having talked to the townspeople in the past in regard to budgets, one of the things they focus on is always.
right, is absolutely,
the student
absolutely.
population and if the student population is declining, why isn't our budget declining?
Okay, so,
But the reality is, our student population has stabilized and has stayed the same
The past few years it has,
over at
right.
least last 3 or
And we're going
At
to see
least
in the future that my graph is attempting to answer that question
Yeah.
about student population and budgets, because the budget is going down.
relative
just-
to the.
No, the budget is going down, people just don't look at the right numbers.
so in October of 12, which we could use that as the FY13,
Right.
enrollment was 1725.
So, and we're 1,600 something now.
1650 or 1640?
43.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boom.
So it really
It's
hasn't
100
changed
down.
much over this
No.
time frame.
I think the higher one was back in 2009 or something like that.
Yeah, it was up-
Doesn't-
it was
doesn't
up
matter.
higher than that.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you want, I mean, if we want to put, just to, I'm not going to talk about the graph, I'll talk about that during the goals, but I know we want to,
Okay,
with the FY19 budget, we should probably say that the last possible time that we're able to discuss the budget, really, that's going to have to go for final vote is January the 3rd. Because January 3rd is the budget, then we have to present that budget to the Mashpee Enterprise so that we can discuss it in public debate on January the 17th, and a final vote on February the 7th. I mean, there's really going to be very limited changes we can make between that whole time. So we're running out of time to what we do. I mean, George and I and the working group will get together and make a recommendation as per what the working group is supposed to be prior to that meeting, and we can all tear it apart, and then, but at the end of that night, we need to all raise our hands and have some kind of number on the table.
I would encourage each of you to, and I've already talked with Paul, and he has blessed this, if you have any questions about any line item, et cetera, or any questions about any of the figures here, to contact him.
and just to make it clear, you do not have to send down there the town manager's number. You can send down any number
Any
you
number
want,
you want.
whatever you want.
It's the school committee's budget.
I have one question. So on the town manager budget, you said that the 975 was
Right?
450 circuit breaker and 500.
500 choice.
So what happens if we don't get 500,000 in choice?
Well, we have roughly 100 choice students at 5,000 a student. I'm banking on the state meeting their obligation.
Right, but I mean, but that means that we're budgeting and planning to spend money that we don't actually have.
No.
Yeah, but it is based on this year's choice kids?
We
Yeah,
get
it's
the
based
money
on
for the
this
kids
year's.
have
So we
this
use that,
year.
we do it in
That's
arrears.
somewhat certain.
So we'll be spending our money for,
Next year.
that
Right.
we would normally spend in FY '20, we'll be spending it in '19.
No, the other way around.
The other way around. The money I'm getting right now that you
Yeah.
see,
FY '18.
when I did the choice, the 125,000 of those four, I'm not spending that this year. That's part of, we're accumulating this year, so we're taking this year's funds and using them next year. And those monthly payments should increase in the next month.
But, so so I get that, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, so there's nothing, there's basically no, it zeroes out our choice money for that year to
Correct,
spend.
correct. So I couldn't say to you, well, we could try your...
Or if we get a student that comes in the district that has high special education costs,
Like the one we got this year at 200,000?
yeah, we won't
Yeah.
have
We have-
any.
And we could use next year's school choice.
We could.
The current year, but
Absolutely.
then we're just kicking the can
Then-
down the road.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I could do that.
Okay,
No,
that's what
no,
I
but-
wanted to understand.
Not only that, but we vote on school choice every year, so depending on who's on the committee or what the committee decides to do, we may not have school choice, or we may
Well,
only
and-
have 20 spots, so we
Right.
may.
Right. But we have to be careful, the students that are still in the pipeline
Right,
still
they
get
stay.
paid. So it's just
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
slowly matriculate
Yeah,
down to
yeah,
zero.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Good?
Yeah, it's not good, but thank you.
No, it's not. Thank you.
Understood. Good.
Understood. Paul, in regard to the grants and everything, what are you anticipating for next year? Another 80,000 decrease?
No, that's not...
All right, so that's my graph, so don't steal my thunder, can I?
Oh,
No,
sorry.
I'll let you, you want
That's not part
to,
of
you want
Paul's
to,
thing.
or do you want me to?
I can talk about it right now. So so one of the things that we've been talking about in the working group, and I apologize for jumping ahead, is that we want to make sure that we're completely transparent with and we talked about it before, transparency and open communication, because I believe, and not a negative word, but there's some ignorance involved about how the school department actually gets their budget, how we have to do their budget, and the overall number. All they do is they see the bottom number. They don't realize, if you look at the budget increase, what, by the way, we've averaged 2.1% increase since FY '13. That's just an average. I mean, I didn't weight it or anything like that. Based on the decrease of the grants, if you see this orange line's the grant number, right? So the grants grants received to offset our budget in FY '13 were 1.07 million, and the estimated grants we're going to receive in FY 2019 are 709,000. That number comes from I just averaged out the decrease in the grants over the last 5 years and just use that as a rough number.
So, Paul, what do you have right now?
Do I have the number right now?
So what are you assuming we're going to get for grants for 19?
Well, let's take a guess. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, you heard tonight that one grant we wouldn't be receiving. And let's, if you want to go back to, let's see, 24, thank you. If you go back to page 24, I don't see Title I going anyplace, whether we'll get 199,526, that's questionable. Last year, we had 230, it was a little higher than this, 233,800. So, it's gone down. That's a federal grant. I see the federal grants declining. The Title IIA grant last year, in FY '17, we received $56,436. This year, it's $42,308. You can see it's declining. Title IV was a new grant for us this year. So, and that was $6,011. But the big grant, as I refer to it, the granddaddy of them all is the 94-142, the SPED grant, IDEA. That's going down from 408 to $408,844 down to $388,733. So you see they're going down.
Yeah.
And I don't see them going back up. And if we start losing
We didn't have that number, so I estimated about $60,000 of decrease for the total grants, is what I said.
Yeah, it could be, it could be, could be very,
If you had asked me this time last year if I thought 298 and 274 were going away, I would have said absolutely not.
So I guess my question is, right now, do you have that 60,000 included in our expenditures or not?
not. A reduction in the grants? No, no.
So that would cause a $60,000 gap.
It would, right, it would be a $60,000 gap, but as we just take the Title I grant this year, going from 231,512 down to 199,526. That's an impact of $31,000 roughly, $32,000. What we had to do this year because of that, there are reading teachers that are paid out of that particular, I'm going to just
No, I
get
know.
into the Title I grant, that are paid out of that. We had to earmark that, basically that, almost all that grant just for salaries.
And didn't we lose a music teacher too? Weren't we supposed to hire somebody and then they had to come from the Coombs School over to here?
Well, we did hire, it was a half-time.
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought part of the rationale for that was a reduction in grants, that was supposed to be
Because the
a...
other part of
Well, that
position was
particular
moving
person
back.
was, who has a reading background, we were
Right.
going to put her in Title I to
Right.
support reading, but we couldn't.
Yeah.
So she came here, and we have a half-time music teacher over there.
The other thing you might notice, or may have noted, is that the Congress has passed a tax bill, and part of the hidden stuff in there is what they're going to do to all of the other entitlement grants, and that was in the bill, is where the cuts are going to have to come from that. You're talking about Medicaid, Medicare, and education. They're all on the chopping block, so, and particularly with Ms. DeVos in there as Secretary of Education, and her philosophy as to how education could proceed, or should proceed, I think at a minimum, we're probably going to see a $60,000 cut. That's just a personal opinion. I have nothing to back it
And,
up.
you know, it's just, you know, I'm in the same position Paul is, and he's much more than I am, and you just don't know.
We
I
don't
mean,
know.
we can just trend it historically about how it's been
Yeah.
going down and try to budget for it, you know.
And I know we're going to lose one of the early childhood grants, and I'm not sure whether it's inclusive or the early childhood, but I know we're going to lose one of those. This is one of the last years. But it's like the kindergarten grant, we lost that. That was a state grant, so I do have on the grants, just so, and I'll just kind of hit on these, so and then I'll... The major ones are Title I and the IDEA. The rest of these grants, if you look down, just to, we knew they were only temporary. If you look at some of the, if you go back to FY10, the ARRA grant, that was part of the stimulus grant, the American Recovery Act. So what happened there is, this was under Obama, that, they gave us this money to keep people working, and then the town had to pick up their salaries after the, just for those couple of years, as you see in FY 10 and 11. So a lot of these, and I didn't even include, we had a PEP grant, a physical ed grant, it was $450,000 over 3 years. And that was a one-time deal. They don't even have that grant anymore. People can't, that was a competitive grant that Mashpee got, and we were very fortunate. But, now, all of the items starting to need to be, the weights and stuff have to be refurbished and so forth. So now it's another burden on the town. So, you get these grants, and then they kind of...
Did you include those one-time grants in this?
No, actually, those,
No.
that only goes back to 13, I think, or,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. But, a lot of these, academic supports, even, these were in 13 and 14. There's just a lot of small grants that are now disappeared because it's just not the money.
So Paul,
Yep.
if I take the three positions that we talked about earlier, which is roughly 160,000, take our best guess at the grant decrease of 60,
Right.
right? So that's 220,000
Correct.
that we would have to cover. And even looking at your, I guess, all-in budget, I guess there's no way for that to work.
No, there isn't.
You know what would be really good is if this type of information could end up in the newspaper. Because I know, I'm sure Nicole remembers from last spring, this is a real sticking point of trying to Jeff's point, of trying to help the public really understand. I mean, it's to no fault of their own. I mean, unless you're really interested in municipal budgets, you don't really understand, maybe like approximately 4% of our budget comes from federal grants, where a lot of other departments, or most departments, don't, rely on federal grants as heavily as we do. So if you don't really understand that these grants are declining, which is causing our budget to decline, and we need to ask for more money to make that up, it just looks like we keep asking for more money if you don't understand that, so.
Well, right. What I did is, if you go to the back, there's a couple of graphs. I took two of the grants that were, that we knew, we assume were going to be around for a while. The IDEA and Title I. And you can see, Title I is kind of smoothed out there, but you can see it's starting to drop. But look at IDEA. That used to be a huge asset to the schools' special ed. I mean, it really, that was one in its heyday, was, I mean, really, really helpful. I mean, that's where you could get a BA.
That's really, that's really scandalous, I think, that's where the cuts are coming in special education. I don't think the public is really aware that that's where federal funding is falling off. I mean, of all places, it just...
That's the No Child Left Behind. That's one of the grants for the no, am I correct?
No, it's been
No?
around longer than...
Title I?
240's been around longer than No Child Left Behind.
Right, but there was an increase that they gave a boost to.
Yeah, I think that may have been with No Child Left Behind. Yeah, the trend is to move the onus of supporting individuals with disabilities in schools onto local municipalities. That's what's happening. So there's a federal law, but there is very shortly going to be very little federal funding to go with that law. And ESSA, the new authorization of the No Child Left Behind became ESSA, has the language in there already that indicates that there will be very little federal support for schools soon.
But I go back probably more years than you. So.
Just a few.
And that used to be a huge
Yeah.
grant. It was, even in the small school district, got a lot of money and a lot of support for the special needs.
That's the only way you can
Yeah.
function,
Yeah.
is having the 240 grant. That I know of, but we're going to come up with lots of graphs and plans and ways in our working group to solve this.
We have some ideas. Yeah, we have some ideas. No, we have ideas in the working group about to put this stuff in front of a group of individuals so that at least when they vote no or yes, that they understand why they're voting no and yes. And it's not, well, we don't approve of $21 million. Why don't you approve? So.
The other thing, and I can speak, from both sides here, having been on the Finance Committee for 6 years, and our liaison to the school, is that the town I shouldn't speak for the town. At least I did not have a clear understanding of exactly what was in the school department budget and how that ran until I got into the school department. As a member of the finance committee, try though I might, I could not get the information I needed to be able to understand in complete detail what the school department was submitting. Sitting it from this side, I can see.
Doesn't so we don't go before the finance,
Oh, yes, we do.
with this budget and explain it to them?
If we have to.
If we have to, I mean, you know, I've gone before the finance committee before to explain. But it's not mandatory, you know.
It's not mandatory.
Not mandatory.
And
In other words,
we're going to
Seems like a good
discuss,
idea, though.
we're going
Oh,
to
yeah.
discuss our
Oh,
plan
yeah.
when we get to the goal part of it.
Oh,
the working
okay.
group.
All right. Sorry, I don't want to steal your.
No, it's all right. It's already half stolen. so we're good.
Stolen.
So is the IDA money part of when they talk about the the foundation budget from the state? That's different because that's also declining. So the way that they calculate what they give us is also kind of headed down, as I understood it, from my mask training.
right, that would be the Chapter 70 money. It would not reflect on these grants, the state grants.
But yeah, they're talking about restructuring how they do
Right,
Chapter 70
right.
money.
They've been talking
I don't know
about
what
that
the
for years.
ramifications are for Mashpee for that. Some towns would do better and some towns would do worse,
Right.
but that's probably.
That's
what
why it
they're
hasn't
talking about.
passed.
Correct. They've been talking about that for years.
Since 93.
Yeah, 93. Well, not, I don't know, yeah.
You look deep in thought, Don. Penny.
Wow.
Well, I'm just thinking about who we have to convince. Because from a charter's perspective, it's the town manager's budget that matters the most. Because he's charged with coming up with the omnibus budget, and it has to balance. And so we have to make sure that he is on board.
Can I ask you, can I once again request that we wait till new business? I have something I want to
Oh,
bring up
I'm-
that's going to help, that's going to help you with that, and I just don't want to violate the agenda,
Okay,
that he's on board.
In
well,
other words, don't take any more of his thunder.
okay. If it's not covered, we'll.
Please, yeah, I'm not trying to knock you down, I'm just saying I have
Then
something with it.
we can
yeah.
have that conversation.
Yeah.
I think we should get everything out, and then
Yep.
we'll have, you,
Because
I'll welcome the questions.
everyone should have the
Right.
same understanding.
Right, absolutely.
Of everybody's importance in the process and what that process is.
Absolutely.
So
Yes,
if
one
we're
quick
going to
question.
cover it, let's cover
Just a
it.
quick question on your chart for FY 2019.
Yes, ma'am.
That budget request, where's that number?
All right, so in,
And you might have said it and I might have.
no, so that number was the level funded budget number minus school choice.
Okay.
So one of the things we discussed at the work group, and again, I'm jumping ahead again, but one of the things I had requested from Paul from the working group is that to take the last budget where we weren't artificially sequestered, basically, by outside agencies. So what was our expenses at that point, and then COLA it up to FY19, that's our expenses, and we work from that point up or down. And that's where that comes from. But this is also a little bit artificial because that means the school choice money was taken completely out to be used as we see fit. It wasn't offset in the budget.
That's correct.
It's actually a 6% increase if you keep school choice, if you don't remove the school choice budget and you just, so, or it would be, it's like 3.5% budget increase if we take that school choice money zeroed out and use it to fill line items. Otherwise, it's 6%. So, I mean, I was just trying to find a real way to, I didn't think it was smart to start at the town manager budget, because that's basically an artificial number derived in a vacuum. The 4.4 number was something that we had decided in the haste, I think, of just removing school choice, so we really didn't put a lot of thought into that. And the 2.9 was probably a really good starting point. So someplace between this 3.5 and 2.9, we should really find a magical number. So we just got to figure out what we're all comfortable with, and we can hopefully knock that out of the park on January the 3rd.
So are you available to attend that meeting on January 3rd? That's not one you would usually be at.
I'll be there.
All right.
And, I guess we don't need to wait, Don, I'm sorry, I was just trying to not mess with your agenda, but I got a phone call today from the school committee liaison, John Cotton,
Oh, yeah.
and he's requesting for us to meet prior to the January 3rd meeting with Rodney, Wayne, Don, John, Tom O'Hara, and 2 school committee members. So, Don Thayer. Not Don, Dawn.
Dawn.
I'm from Illinois, so all my DAW and DON sound the same. So,
So they're looking for a meeting prior to the January 3rd.
yes, because this was requested by John and Rodney, and they want to make sure, they don't want to have any, they don't want anything to happen from previous history where they're, we're on the town floor. They're really excited about getting this taken care of. Extra time. The 2 names they mentioned were myself and you to attend the meeting, but again, I defer to the committee for that stuff at all times.
Well, if they had given us 2.97, then we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Well, I'll make sure I talk to Bob about that, but.
So that's going to have to be January 2nd, because I believe the town manager is away until then.
And he mentioned that date.
Do an email.
He mentioned that date, January 2nd, yeah.
So that's the Tuesday
Before.
before the Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we'll have Gail try to.
I mean, it's going to be,
coordinate that with the
it's
town.
going to be busy too, because I would assume that the working group would want to have all their ducks in a row prior to going to that meeting.
Yeah, the working group should try to find a day next week.
Yeah, I agree.
No one's away.
Are you going to any other countries? I'm just asking.
Cambridge.
Yeah. That's another country.
I'll have Gail coordinate that tomorrow for next week.
But prior to that meeting, we need to have a sense of where we think we're going to be. So if we're going to include these 3 or 2.5 positions as a increase over what was previously submitted, or not, and I guess a sense of where we think we are going to end up in regard to particularly school choice utilization.
We were going to end up where?
I'm not following either.
Using it for ourselves or them using it, I would assume.
Right.
Well, I think what they're looking for is exactly what you see on the sheets that I produce, that they want to see the whole budget, and then when we had this discussion, and they want to see the 500,000 or whatever the school choice money is taken out of that, to offset it.
Well, they can't
No,
have
I-
all of it. That's just dumb. You can't have all of it, and
And, there's,
it's just.
and I don't want everybody to think that this is something that hasn't already been discussed. And, we got together the working group on purpose so we could have these in-depth discussions, so we didn't have to have them at this table. And some of the things we talked about is how do we present to a group like that, especially like this one on the 2nd, how do we present to them to explain why it's important for us to have some flexibility with respect to school choice. And one of the things we talked about is we were just spitballing back and forth all the amazing things we've done in the last 5 years, being able to have this extra money. One of them that nobody talks about on the town side is we spent $600,000 to get the QuestionNet Windows, in place, to get that thing going. Now that's going to happen in April. We've got Club Falcon, gosh dang it. Camp Falcon, I cannot get that name right. We got Camp Falcon, we have the number of electronic upgrades we have, all the licensing we've taken care of that would normally go into the budget. I mean, we could have a list of probably 12 things, and talking about the decrease in the utilization of out-of-Mashpee school choice, and increasing the value of the Mashpee education to drive our school choice, incoming school choice going up. So we had a discussion about how we could visualize that to the group, and all we can do is visualize that, and again, so they can say no or yes and say it out of a vacuum. Because right now, this 1.77 is a completely arbitrary number. It's based on an omnibus budget, but has nothing to do about what it's doing to the school system, I don't think. And like Don's Paul's, this graph, I'd be interested to see how much farther it gets when you take the money that we return back to the town every year out of that, you know, so. So, I mean, I don't know if you would, do you think we need to get some kind of general hand raising and head nodding tonight?
I mean, I see 3 different numbers on a page here. And I'm also hearing that none of these include these additional positions, correct?
That's correct.
So we need, if we're going to, as a consensus, and I don't know that we need to vote on it, but if the consensus is we want to include that, then we need to be able to show truly, this is what we're going to be proposing in a ballpark range. And, you know, this is what we want to include. This is what we want to reserve if we're holding back, if we want to retain putting all of the school choice funds in. Which we could put it all in and we could put it all right back out and say, you know, it's going to be used for the following things, including, you know, these 2.5 new positions. But
I would be very careful to put a figure out there before meeting on the 2nd with, I'll use the 2nd, or whatever date we're going to meet with the town manager, if you want me there, or when you meet with him.
I think you specifically requested you and
Oh, he
Patty.
did?
Yeah.
yeah, I think
I wrote
you
you down,
both
Paul.
have to be.
Oh, okay, good. I'm just saying, I would not want to go into that meeting pinned down to a figure.
No, but I think we need to have some idea of what to include or what not to include.
I don't know if this is what you're looking for at all, but I agree with Nicole in the fact that I wouldn't support dumping the whole thing in there. I mean, if that's sort of kind of what you're looking for, where as far as, you know, trying to see
No,
where the
that-
committee stands, I would
That
not
could be
support
one of the
that at all.
figures.
Yeah, I
I
think
agree, a
that,
dollar amount doesn't make sense, but as far as, I personally would not support dumping the entire thing into the budget.
I think that's good enough for now. Then I guess the other item is, you know, it sounds like there's a consensus view to include the 2.5 positions as part of that discussion too.
I mean, me personally, I don't think that this is the right time to do positions, only because this is the first time that we're going and fighting, advocating for a higher budget, and then we're going to say, oh, and by the way, we'd like 2.5 more positions. The
Well-
BCBA one is completely off the table. We know we have to do it. You know,
Yeah, so why can't we say that one?
I'm not talking, I'm completely
Oh.
taking that out of all of my conversations. I consider that part of level service.
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
In other words, if he doesn't budge on the 1.77, that position, I gotta go looking for it, for the funding.
well, but I think the other point, though, about the volunteer coordinator is that I think what we had talked about is perhaps using choice funds to sort of pilot test that. So if we wipe out choice funds, then we have to dip into the next year's account in order to do that. So it kind of does figure in. It's not, we're not telling him we're adding positions. We're saying, hey, we had plans for that choice money, and now if you're
Oh, yeah,
gonna
that's
make
a, yeah,
this-
that's a different, a completely
Yeah,
different
that's-
argument, yeah, yeah.
Or setting, I think, setting an amount of the choice money,
What's that?
setting amount, you know, out of the 500, 250.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
that
whatever it
that's-
is, yeah,
right,
whatever it is.
That would be the floor. So now we raise that,
And then it got.
that that's not earmarked, and then all of a sudden, the school committee says, oh, we want to put in
Yeah.
the pilot.
That gets us very clear for us to go into any kind of meeting with all of that school choice money spent in our heads.
Yep.
This is what we were planning on doing with this, and say, you know, by not having that money, this is what it's, you know, what the ramifications are.
Well, I thought we did that 2 months ago.
Well,
I was there.
Yeah, well,
That's
I
what
got
we
you.
did.
Yeah, when we told Paul to pull it out, that's exactly what we ended up doing. So,
I guess we could ignore the meeting request, but I don't know if that's a good thing to do.
No.
No, I
I have
think,
faith in you guys.
I think we have to
I have
have
faith
it.
in you guys.
But I mean,
I would say-
I think the implication is, though, so this subcommittee, or the superintendent's working group, the superintendent's working group on finance is not empowered by the entire school committee to negotiate with the town or make decisions about the budget, right?
That's correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
No, the understanding I had is that we would make a recommendation to the
Recommendation.
committee.
Right, as long as you don't make a recommendation to the town, I'm fine with that.
We're not making any recommendation.
Okay,
to the town.
all right, that's, I feel like
Well,
the place to have that discussion is definitely here. And
But you can't
guys-
have, that's the problem, okay, gotcha.
But so you're coming back to
Yeah.
tell us,
Right.
what the results of
Well,
that meeting were.
again, this just happened.
Yeah.
This afternoon. So the plan was the working group would get together for the final time before the budget, and then make the recommendation on the 3rd to the committee. This is what we came up with, this is our rationale, what do you think? And then we adjust it as we want, and we vote on it, it's done. This meeting is new, because of this new 1.77.
Well,
Clearly, there's other people that don't agree with the 1.77 thing, or there wouldn't have been a push for this meeting.
I would think before,
So-
my personal feeling would be before we go to any type of a meeting like that the school committee is in concert, which would mean after the 3rd.
What? It has to be before the 3rd,
Why does it have
because
to
we
be
can't change the
before
budget
3rd?
after the 3rd.
Yes, we can. We can change it up to February 7th.
Then we have to have another public debate.
You have to decide what you're publishing on.
We have to decide what we're publishing.
You can send down anything the school committee can make their budget anything they want. But it's going to have a consensus here.
Well, then maybe we need some clarification, because that's what we discussed in the working group was that on January the 3rd is the last time that we're able to discuss and vote on the budget because of the timeline for publishment, the
Correct.
appropriate
Correct.
timeline for publishing,
Correct.
the timeline for public debate, and the timeline for final approval.
Yeah. There has to be so many days between when it's published in the paper and when it's debated. The public meeting.
So why is the 7th then?
I'm sorry?
We had a vote scheduled for the 7th. That's what's confusing. The 7th of
February.
February,
Which is the next meeting after the public debate.
10 days.
which is,
Oh, no, I'm sorry, not
No, no. In other words, on the 3rd, you got to come up with a bottom line. I gave you 3 that have been presented. You can change these, but the paper has to, I think it's, what was it, the 4th we have to have?
Fourth
it?
is
4th
the
at 11 a.m.
11.
Yeah.
yeah.
So, in other words, I've got to have it all laid out, goes down there. Now it's there's a period of so many days, but we meet that period on the 7th of February.
They vote, but the hearing
They
is the
vote.
17th.
They vote. The hearing is that day, that's when the public can come in.
No, the hearing is before the final vote.
Yes.
17th of January, yeah.
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 All right.
In other words, people can
This is where
say
I'm getting
it.
Yeah.
confused. We're having 2 final votes? We're having one on the 3rd and one on the 7th. What is the difference between those two, 3rd of January and 7th of February?
You're just coming to a common understanding on the 3rd.
3rd, yes. Thank you.
Of what we're putting in the paper.
What we're putting in the paper, which
Right.
has nothing to do, or
Well,
It can-
some similarity with the final number might be, but not necessarily a final number.
It's not, the vote, I'll still call it a vote, but the vote on the 3rd is just a consensus. The actual vote is on February 7th. In other words, in most places, they've already got a consensus. The 2.9% budget looked good. Whoever made that budget up did a great job. So, then that gets kind of the consensus. There's no vote. There doesn't have to be a vote. They can say, oh, yeah, everybody can just say, that's great. On the 7th of February, that's what's on the
That's the final
table
vote.
out here that people can look at. And
So
then-
that's why I'm not, why is it necessary that we have a meeting on the 2nd if the final vote on us is not till the 7th of February? That's the part I'm getting confused.
Well, on the
Because then we would be putting a budget in the paper for the public to consume
Mhm.
prior to sitting at a requested meeting by the town for the budget that we just presented to the public.
Okay. So it's politics, basically.
Oh, I mean, that's the other thing too, and my question to the group was, how much can we actually massage the budget post-public debate. You know, I mean, what if 100 people, God forbid it'll never happen, but what if 100 people show up and say, we hate every bit thing about this budget, right, at the public debate? One would assume that we have the authority to change the budget. But then what's the next step after that? Do we have to do another public debate, another public presentation?
No.
You know?
No.
You can make that decision by moving the
Yeah,
numbers around.
yeah. I just want to make sure we're not violating any kind of weird.
No,
I mean, I think what we publish in the newspaper, which is required by the charter,
Mhm.
should resemble what we think will be our final
Like
budget.
the best guess for the.
It can change, but it shouldn't materially change.
I think going down on the second, we're trying to get everybody on the same page, so that we don't have, a budget that the town can't afford going before the town meeting.
George, I think the other piece of that too is having the meeting prior to is, obviously, we have to know what's in the budget and defend it, but as you know, being on the finance committee, the town itself, because it's their whole budget, is gonna have to know what's going on with it, because there are people gonna ask questions, and they're gonna need to know what's going on so they can properly defend it, or whatever stance they take on it as well. So if we have that meeting afterwards, then they may take a wrong stance on it and may not, really approve
And I
of what
apologize, I
they're-
didn't call
a
you when I
budget.
got the phone call, but it happened seriously like 2 hours ago.
Okay.
You know.
Full understanding.
Yeah. So.
So do we,
More
Is
look
that-
at.
do we want to talk about the
is
overall
good.
budget process
Just
that
not
then
level
will
service.
happen? Or are you going to cover that?
I don't understand the question, sir.
So getting back to trying to respond to Nicole's question, and what I was articulating about in regard to the importance of the town manager and his role. Are you going to, you have more to cover on that, or do we want?
Oh, no, I was just going to talk about what our plan was for if we ultimately went to the finance committee, which would be the same thing we would do if we had to come to because when we discussed it was pre this meeting, right?
Yeah.
So whatever our discussions were, what we would thought would be a good thing to present to the finance committee meeting would be the same thing, right? I'm assuming we would talk at this other meeting. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I can really articulate what his role is right now because I guess I probably don't fully understand it. So, except that he's the one that builds the budget, the bottom line budget.
Right.
Yeah.
So the town manager is responsible for building the town budget with guidance from the finance committee. But what will get ultimately published, and I think I've mentioned this before, but what ultimately will get published in the warrant will be the town manager's budget, along with then each department, each department's budget, which can be the same or could be different. But in total, he's got to get back to the omnibus budget number for the town. And so it's important for us to have him on board and fully understand, along with the selectmen, and ultimately FinCom, starting with the town manager, so that he's on board and advocating for us with the finance committee. The finance committee could not like his budget or our budget. They can take a position, but it doesn't change the ultimate omnibus budget.
But I believe in the towns
Yeah.
that the ultimate appropriating body are the selectmen, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
No?
not.
Because
not
in
under
the cities,
charter. In our charter, it's the town manager. Having sat at that table,
Don't the selectmen approve the warrant?
They approve the warrant.
And they could say, I don't like, no, we don't approve it? So they have bottom line
Like,
detail.
in the cities, it's a city council
Yeah.
across the Commonwealth. They're the appropriating body, not
I
the
feel
mayor.
compelled to point out that we only have 30 minutes left in this meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
I think we need to move on.
okay. So,
We don't have time to move on. There's nothing else on this agenda that's more important than figuring out what the hell to do
Well,
with this
good.
fiscal year
I
19
thought
budget.
I thought those subsequent items were yours.
We're still already talking about them, so.
Oh, well, that's great. I just worried.
I just don't, I mean, I don't want to, you know,
So-
you made the comment that, you know, that we don't have the ultimate power to discuss anything outside of the committee, and I agree with you. So we need to take the time at this meeting to discuss it if we're going to have a meeting on January the 2nd.
Right.
I do have it. You mean the Board of Selectmen just approves what the town manager sends in?
No, they don't even have to approve it.
They don't have to approve it, do they?
They don't, they do.
They have no,
I've never seen them not approve.
Yeah, well, that's another issue, but that's, yeah, but they
But-
can vote, no, the human services budget should be increased by 10,000, not 7,500. They can say that.
No, no,
they
no,
can't.
I don't think they can on a line item basis.
the way you just explained it to me, the selectmen have no power. If the town manager approves the budget, and that's it. A lot of towns, the selectmen approve the town budget by vote. You don't even have to, you know, if the town manager's the appropriating body by charter, that's it.
But regardless of who ultimately
yeah.
on the town side gets to, you
We really-
have to reach some kind of consensus
Yeah.
on
We really
your
don't
budget.
care.
Yeah.
Really?
I always thought it was kind of that.
So can I just add in the notes, because I was the note taker, and I just want to make sure that's clear, that I took the notes, and I did a good job of that. What we
Good.
said was going to happen at this meeting today was that the school committee would consider that considering a level serviced budget
Killing me,
at
George.
a certain percentage.
Killing me.
Why?
No, she.
George,
don't like
he's
bombing
having a
over
bad
here,
day
but-
over there, guys.
But the school
It's a rough
choice
night, yeah.
offset brings the increase down to blank. And then in addition, so that's one thing you have to decide, or you should talk about tonight, is what is the level service budget you consider for what's your number for level service? And then how much of it do you want to offset? choice? And then secondly was considering the addition of the positions that you consider, that you just talked about. Those are the things you have to consider right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if we include the amount of those positions above what Randy proposed, then we're basically at Paul's budget. Rodney.
It's a good start.
Either way.
I'm
I was
hoping he
really,
doesn't watch TV.
my most coherent thought of the meeting, too. Yeah, so I was just doing if you basically add it, you know, essentially, the school, our budget said, you can't have the choice funds. Let's see what level services really is. It's 4.3%, almost 4.4. Rodney said, use all of it, and that's 1.77. And Paul prudently used some, but kept a little bit of a cushion for us as sort of a emergency fund. So I think,
For possibly those positions.
yeah, exactly. And if we got to Paul's budget, we would have the money for the positions. We'd use some of the school choice funds. And we'd still have a little bit for the rainy day or experimental, you know,
Yep.
sort of new things. So I'm not saying you're a genius, but
All these people have to live with him every day.
in this room,
I guess
you're
you
one
didn't
of
read
the
the article.
geniuses. No.
Oh, yeah.
Nice recovery.
So that's how I see it. So I think we got to get closer to Paul's number. I just don't think I can abide by a budget that uses up every dime of the school choice fund.
My feeling is that all of the other departments in the town got their labor increases as contractual obligations, whatever they happen to be. Every one of those was honored in every other department. Our contractual obligations were 3.3% or 3 point whatever.
Yeah, it was 3.3.
3.33, yeah.
So I feel that that is the number that we should be looking for.
And I agree with you, except that I would even say that it's 3.33, 81% of that. Right, which is actually around 2 point, you know, it actually falls into the 2.9% budget that the genius over there put together.
I can see the nameplate.
But I'm with you, I'm with you, 100%.
I'm gonna
100%
have
agree
no
with you.
office left, because he's gonna expand into mine.
Gina's head.
Yeah.
Now, your 2.9% budget, though, what was the status of school choice funds?
Just, we took 160, I think it was around 165,000 out for technology.
And put it into the budget? So
Right.
that was
In other
that was
words,
basically
take-
encumbered by the budget, right, out of
Right,
school
it
choice?
wasn't,
Yeah, okay.
so we, basically what we did this year.
And what we'd be doing instead is actually covering the position we know we need to hire, the halftime tech,
Right.
potentially a volunteer coordinator, and that technology, right? I mean,
I mean,
Camp
if you
Falcons.
wanted all those positions.
right, well, yeah, but at least the $80,000 one
Yeah, I
is
do
not
need
in
that
your
one.
original budget.
No, it's not. That one.
We got to
is-
find 60, 20, 80.
But, wait.
Yeah.
If, on the 2 point, I'm going to defend my budget, it's a 2.97% budget. The choice money is not in there. If I was going to show that now, I would put the technology back into the budget and then offset it. And I would put that position, the positions that you tell me to do, I would put back into the budget and then show an offset of the choice money that we're using, and then it would come out with a balance. In other words, if the
BCBA.
BCBA
You're so close
almost
to that.
gets put in there and it's not 80,000, we're not going to put 80,000,
Right, right.
you know, if it's 60,000 or whatever, and then offset it with the choice money. And then that would leave the balance, whatever.
Would there be any appetite to have a you know, like a pilot halftime volunteer coordinator? I'm just curious. I don't know if that's more palatable.
I mean, it could be, it can start small and build.
Yeah.
It has a potential to be rather huge, but based on what we've got going so far.
I'm just
person
curious.
could-
We've never had this discussion before, so I'm just curious about it.
But you wouldn't have to make, if we could get the 2.97 budget, you wouldn't have to make that decision right away. I could put that in May. Because remember, we have the choice funds. And when we put that position in.
But I know,
offset.
you know, I got it. I just don't want to, in the future, decide that, okay, we've already determined that we're going to do a full-time $55,000 volunteer coordinator, and then determine, okay, so I'd like to know, what are we not going to use? What are we not getting that we would normally use $55,000 for, with the exception of probably another Clear Touch, or some random projector that nobody tells anybody about?
Okay.
So-
I still have a nice.
Thought we were
budget.
gonna get through a meeting without that.
No, we'll never get through a meeting without talking about that projector.
Yeah. I'll never live that.
No,
Well, I mean, I think, you know, like I said, when we talked about this position originally, Paul was already had his FY19 budget done, and it wasn't in there, and we were looking at, the only reason we're talking about it now is because Rodney wants to take all
Yeah,
the choice
yeah.
funds, which doesn't give us the
That's-
option of
No,
even
I'm
piloting
with you.
it.
No,
And I don't think we'd even be coming back to it so quickly if we hadn't gotten such a response from Southport and, you know, really seen the potential of what.
No, I'm not looking at it correctly. This isn't adding positions, this is improvement, this is school
Right.
improvement.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
we want to
Yeah.
use the choice funds to make advancements
Yeah.
because we're in a
No.
level service.
I agree, I'm looking at it completely the wrong way. So the volunteer coordinator position is improvement, the tech is school improvement, I got you, yeah, it's,
Well, in defense of the tech, I mean, the reality of bringing the one-to-one program into the district, we didn't anticipate whatever, it's mainly a middle high school issue
Mhm.
because of backpacks and how
Mhm.
they get the number of screens that need to be replaced. And if you're going to maintain that tool for our students, level service for them, there's going to have to be
yeah.
something.
No, you don't have
that
to sell
we-
me on it. I would love it, you mentioned before, I don't know if it was you or Dr. Hanscom that said about the, including that, I mean, like building some kind of program with the high schoolers
Right, which they have
that
started.
they can shadow and
Yes.
learn the tech and
Yes,
help out.
that
you
has-
They're
know.
already
that has
starting for
started,
sure.
yes.
But ultimately, there's a program in Burlington that has that, Techsperts.
Yeah.
Kids do almost.
Because we already had something like that, right? We already had something like that at the high school?
Experts in
Yeah,
particular,
it's
They've done a great amount of work with
It's
the
just the
Chromebooks.
sheer,
I mean, because this only going to get, this workload's only going to get larger. And it'd be nice to see if we could put some of it on the backs of the students and have them
So-
grow as opposed to.
and teach the students how to manage their
Yep.
Chromebooks.
Yeah,
Just saying,
Good luck.
cover is there for a reason.
good luck.
So, Paul, in your 2.97 budget, you used 165 out of approximately 500 to offset the technology costs, right?
Correct.
Which would have left then, what, roughly 335?
Roughly, but then Camp Falcon is going to be taken out of that. That's why I would rather show them as in the budget.
Yeah, okay.
So now we're up to, what, 210?
Okay, so 210, so that leaves basically 290,000, right?
Correct.
Okay, I'm just trying to,
Yep,
not only work through the math here. So if I have 290, and now we're saying we're gonna need, let's call it 160-ish out of that. That'll leave you 130,000 left, which by right, if we're gonna create, in theory, new positions which have benefits, that's.
Make program improvements.
Well, I know, we're doing program improvements.
We're talking optics here. yeah.
I'm talking optics as I put their hat on. They're gonna look at, you're increasing their costs because we don't pay for the benefits, they do. So, I don't know, another, what, 25,000 roughly in benefits would come out off of that, so, or was that 160 down to roughly 125,
Yeah, 135.
which is about half of what I think they were thinking would be available, right? Because they were thinking that 250 would be available.
Correct, that's what he took out.
Don't
But I
forget about the
don't-
20,000 that we're currently paying for the contract, correct? It's about 20,000?
Yeah.
So that would be subtracted from the amount of the 160-ish for the positions.
What
Because we're already paying
Oh, for
20.
the BCBA.
Oh, yeah.
Under operating.
So the difference would actually be about 140.
Okay, so about 140,000. So about 100,000 less than what he was originally looking for, as I understand it.
And then I don't know if we're still interested in discussing a floor, but if we have any kind of floor, $140,000, doesn't leave much of a floor.
No.
So if we put a $50,000 school choice floor there, then that leaves $90,000 for outside improvements that aren't already encumbered by the budget. So, I mean, that's still a good amount of money to use as we see fit, but.
Yeah.
I guess I just want to give one opinion on
Yeah.
my stance.
Might be something else.
Well, I think you're close. But you're not quite there. No.
Yeah,
He wants
that's
2
okay.
he wants
No, no,
2.98.
I'm okay with that.
2.98, just so you're not doing this. No, so
2.9,
I guess where I stand is I think your budget is right on if it weren't for these improvements that we're looking to make. So what I would like to see is to keep your budget, but without touching school choice, put that 140 as an increase.
Now, the
See what I'm
140
saying?
reflects the positions?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I would like to see. I would
Right,
like to
that's what
see-
right.
Keep these numbers, but rather than take that 140 or potentially pilot our school choice or whatever,
Right.
to bake it right into the requested budget and leave school
Well,
choice
that's what I would
alone.
have, that's what I,
Because I personally do not like, especially when it comes to potentially long-term positions, I don't like putting stuff like that into school choice. I just don't. It doesn't make.
no, and that's my
And I know
feeling.
you don't
That's
either.
my feeling, but, we've kept the school choice separate.
Yes.
But I still, if we offset something, I would rather put it, show that technology had a $165,000 budget, and we did offset it with the,
Which I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
But
which
if we
would leave
kept
the
your
other balance
budget
open.
exactly the same,
Yeah, I
but just
got you.
increased it by, say, 140 or whatever it is.
we
to-
can do that.
If we decide.
And that may be something that the committee would want to talk to the town manager about also, that the impact on not meeting the services of a special needs student.
So that's,
So, just to clarify though, right now, your budget excludes more than just technology, right? Camp Falcon?
Yeah,
Did you say
those,
Camp
those
Falcon?
two things,
Okay,
those two. 210,000.
all right, because I look at Camp Falcon as, that was a pilot program and got
No, it should be in the budget.
and
Oh, yeah.
got moved by this committee previously into a run rate state, and should be reflected as a run rate state, so.
Look at you with those financial terms.
Run rate state?
Run rate.
It's awesome.
You sound like a
So
Run
are
rate,
you
run
saying,
rate.
are you saying you would take Chris's plus 140 and added another 40 for Camp Falcon to make sure it's in the budget?
Yes. So that the only thing excluded that's relying upon choice funds should be technology.
I forgot
The
about
165,000, is that what we're talking about? Yeah. I concur with that. What
I agree with that.
do you think, George?
I'm still on the 3.3%.
Yeah, so basically,
As a total.
what you're saying amounts to 3.8, what Chris initially suggested amounts to 3.6, and what George said was 3.3, which is from the top box. So,
And the budget that I presented on the chart was 3.5.
All right.
We're close.
I'll go up, but I just thought 3.3 is
take an
extremely
average.
saleable.
and I don't
Everybody
think,
else is
I don't
getting
think we're
it.
going to get more than yours, but.
Well,
No? Well, I mean,
I have
I
no
certainly,
idea.
I'm willing to go higher, but I think,
Yeah, I don't know what everybody else is.
well, I think, I'll go back to the beginning. He wants you to use the choice money.
pardon?
We are using the choice money.
Right.
Yeah, technology.
Well, even the 3.5 includes, or even the 3.6 and 3.7
My
includes it.
My 2.97, I don't include the positions that we just talked about.
But you're
But there's
including,
no, the only thing that's in there are the Camp Falcon, 210,000 of the 250.
oh, right.
Yeah.
And so we're just removing Camp Falcon out of that and making that into a budget line item and adding the positions. So we
Well,
think it should go up to around.
Once I put all those in there, I can offset it whatever you want. You just want to offset it by 165,000? That's going to give you exactly what you're looking at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Boom.
Boom. Done. Tomorrow
But I
morning,
think, so it sounds like the consensus is then, the ceiling is what Paul originally said, the superintendent's budget, the 2.97 is kind of like bare minimum. All the way
Yeah.
up to a percentage higher
Yeah.
is really the range that,
And the actual level service budget is 6%,
well, yeah.
just so you know. To go from last year to this year, to go level service from the stuff you presented me.
right.
For the last
Yeah,
time that we were level service
we
to
did
now
it, we
with
did it,
2%
we did
COLA,
it, right.
6%
Right,
budget.
because we got, the thing that's driving that is the 425,000 that was cut
Yep.
out of our budget last year.
Yep.
If that was not cut, then you wouldn't see a huge
You wouldn't see a
impact.
huge increase, yep.
Okay, can I make a suggestion? That the working group, using the suggestions that have been here this evening, the bottom line would be 2.97 and the high was 3.7?
8.
3.8.
So we have a nice range.
That the working group come up with a recommendation
Those are.
that we would, well, obviously present to the committee next time for their approval, but also as a number to go forward to that meeting,
And potentially the second.
potentially the second.
I'm interested to see what the exact percentage is for this, just the 165. And that's what everybody
Yeah.
was thinking, right? Everything else goes to the budget, we offset technology 165, add the 3 positions, boom.
Is everybody in
Got it.
agreement with that type of an approach from the committee? We don't have to vote, just kind of, what do we want here? Sense of the committee.
Yeah.
I think from
I
a
think that's a good idea.
directional
Building, I would
perspective, I
To yours.
think that's,
Awesome.
That sounds-
That was, you know what, we had a very productive working group, and this is a very productive meeting. So, we didn't expect, oh, cool.
all right.
Yeah, I had it.
You on track?
So
It's not in there.
let's, if we can go back to the agenda,
Sweet.
to
4.5, I think.
item 4.6.
What?
Student activity
Item
counts.
4.6.
Two next to the accounts.
4.6.
In regard to the
Do you mind skipping our goals?
protocols.
Oh,
Student activity.
You're still on, Paul.
You're almost done, Paul. You're almost done.
Sorry.
Are you done?
I said, you're almost done. Go for it.
They came up with.
No, I just got excited over all of those percentages. Nicole, my secretary, was taking it. Student activities. In your packet, I won't go through these. These came from the town treasurer, and these agreed upon with myself. I did add one more, and we've already instituted, is this number 8, the receipt book, which will have 3 copies, and they'll sign off on it. So it's been working out very, very well. The withdrawals, we worked on this some years ago. I worked on it with the assistant town manager, the town accountant, the town treasurer, my accounts payable person, and myself. And these are basically the same thing that we required of any vendor that does business with the school committee. Hoping to finish by February a policy booklet explaining the law, breaking it all down, what we expect, the forms it's not a policy that becomes part of your policy. It's just a policy that needs to be voted. And in this policy, we stress what forms we want you to use and how the procedures are going to take place. It's just basically, I've done it all, or it's been done. We never had a vote on it. I did it some years ago. The forms have changed, so we just got to change the forms. And hopefully at the February meeting, I'll give you a first read, and then you can take it home with you and vote on it.
Okay.
So I won't go and read this because of the time issue. If you have any questions, bring it up at the next meeting. Okay.
So,
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul, does this address then all the issues that, or recommendation, the issues that were raised by the town manager?
Yes,
in his
this has been
report?
submitted to the town manager.
Okay, good, thank you. All right. If there are no further questions on that, we'll move to school committee goals under unfinished business.
Which I kind of think we did address.
We're
We do
good.
have
We're good.
we're working on the policy manual again tomorrow afternoon. And,
All right,
and I think we'll try, I don't know what your schedule is for the working group on finance, but maybe on the 28th of December,
Which is what day?
Thursday.
Yeah,
But we'll figure that out.
go for it.
I'm pretty much open next week after Tuesday.
Okay, so I think
So
Thursday works for.
Monday's good.
Monday's
Does that
good.
work for Mr. Funk?
28.
Sure.
Thursday?
What-
He hasn't worked.
He answers affirmatively.
so next item is discussion of school start times. Item 5.2. So, at 6 minutes, at our last meeting, everyone was asked to think about what information you need in order to be able to arrive at a decision. And,
Mr. Chairman, can I move that we table this until the next meeting? I personally have not, I have a couple of things, but I'm not prepared to really respond to that question completely. So it maybe, if not, the next meeting, I don't even want to use the word table. I don't know what the right word is.
Postpone.
Postpone.
let's postpone
Don't, you
it.
can't say postpone indefinitely, or
No.
that kills the
I
motion.
just want to, can we postpone it, and push it to a January, like maybe the second meeting in January? That would give us a little bit more time to get through that budget stuff on the 3rd. I need a little bit more time to formulate a response to that question.
All right,
Do we need a formal motion to do that, or just a?
I don't think we need a
I
formal
don't think so
motion.
either, yeah.
So we'll bring it up at the second meeting in January, but I would still reiterate to the committee members, if you do have things that you're wanting to see, please reach out to the superintendent. You don't have to wait for that meeting.
Okay.
To provide her with as much lead time.
And, and the more leeway we can give, the better, because to be honest with you, my priority's been thinking about the budget stuff. I haven't really thought about school start times right now.
Yeah,
So-
that's fine. All right,
Yeah.
so we'll put that back on the agenda for the second meeting in January.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Next item, new business, school committee voting procedures.
Oh, that's me.
George.
That's me. I would like to postpone that until the February 3rd meeting. This has turned out to be a little bit more complicated than I thought.
All right. Fair enough.
Is that the meeting date, the 3rd? I thought it was the 7th.
It's
So the
January.
7th, I'm correct, you're correct.
So we'll bring
We'll have a
that up
special meeting on the 3rd.
just for that.
A 1-hour meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item is school committee professional development. In your packet is some information regarding the national conference in April.
Excuse me.
Pierre wanted me to share with you that the cost for registration only is $740 per person. That's what she wrote on this.
That's nuts.
740, and I think I did a quick look, and it's roughly $600 for airfare and hotel.
I cannot attend, so I'm out.
You're out.
What date is
I'm
this?
2 weeks prior to that, I will actually be in San Antonio for military training. So
Can't you just
Can you
stay?
stay?
It's April 6th,
So,
April 7th,
I
April
will
8th,
defer unless we don't have enough people that want to go, then, because obviously we should have some presence there, but if other people want to go, then go ahead.
Well, I thought we voted last year to not go to any of these because of the budget constraints.
But there is money in the budget to accommodate that, and whether,
Okay.
you know, I don't know that it's an all 5 kind of trip,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you could choose to send 1 or 2.
I think it'd be great for somebody to go.
Yeah,
I mean,
somebody
I
should.
have.
One or two should go.
I actually have a request that's alternative to this that I'd like to attend, but I'll wait until we talk about NSBA.
So does anyone think they want to go to this?
Because
Goodness.
At this point, I'd have to check my schedule. I didn't.
Well, so
April.
early registration deadline is January 10th.
So by the
However,
next
if you
meeting-
notice, most hotels are booked already.
Yeah, most
Anyway,
hotels are gone, yeah.
We can still, Gail's confident she can find you a place.
Can I just connect with Gail directly?
Yeah,
It
let
doesn't
Gail
need to
know.
wait for the next meeting.
No, don't wait for the next meeting.
Yeah, if you're willing to go, we've got the funds to do it. Just update us at the next meeting if you're deciding to go.
Ooh, wait a minute.
All right. Page 37 in your packet, we've outlined some dates.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on from the professional development, can
Oh,
I?
sure. Go ahead.
So there is a legislative advocacy conference in February in DC that I've been looking into that I really think I'd like to go to if we have the funding. I estimate it'll cost in between $1,700 and $2,000 with transportation and hotel. I'm lucky enough, as Chris says, I can get military rates at the hotel, so I save a lot of money that way. But with the stuff coming up with the IDEA and the Title I grants and all the things that are going on, it's an in-depth study of how to be legislative advocates. We get to meet with representatives from our districts and from our area and discuss people that sole purpose in life is to advocate for school and student-driven legislative agendas. So I would rather actually go to that than I would the NSBA conference. So unless someone has a huge issue with that, I'd like to sign up for it. It's like $395, I think, registration, and then it's fairly inexpensive. And you can jump on the Acela from Boston and be down there in like 4 hours, so.
Sounds good to me.
Has anyone?
Again, I don't know the right, venue, or how are you supposed to do that? You don't think you need a vote, I just would like to do it, and it's part of our PD budget, and
No, the funds are there.
It is.
Has anyone from this committee ever met with Bill Keating's staff?
I
I have not, no.
Has he ever visited Mashpee?
Visited Mashpee schools,
Pardon me?
not into the schools that I recall, not since I've been here.
Well, if you can make that happen, you have my vote.
Hey, cool. Oh, no, I mean, I mean, I'm not sure I'll be able to I'll leave there with anything, changes for Mashpee, but I'll definitely leave there smarter and be able to make some introductions and hopefully get somebody to come up here and see the good things we're doing in Mashpee.
Yeah.
And although you may not be on Paul's level.
We're talking about
no
some
better-
budget.
No better person to go than you.
Let's do it. No, good. I appreciate the support, so I'm going to go ahead and work with Gil to get that taken care of.
Okay. Anything else into professional development? Hearing none. Upcoming committee dates. We put a few of these out here, just as reminders. So the public hearing for the budget we talked about. The vote we've already. Conference we talked about. Reminder, town meeting will be May the 7th.
And Gail was supposed to put my evaluation on there, so we'll make sure, we'll keep this as a
Yes.
running little list,
Yes,
so we'll put that on there.
Tickler.
because the superintendent's evaluation will need to be done probably around the end of April. Because I think we only have one meeting.
For the election, well, the election is
Before the
the
election.
16th, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's, I think it's well defined in the contract.
All right.
It's 8:16, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Yeah, we are at the appointed time, so
I
Check
have
that out.
one request, though. May I? Or are you going to hit that last item?
executive?
Well, I'm,
Well, just,
George had made a motion to
I know, I
end the
seconded it.
meeting at 8:15, so.
yeah, I
It is
just,
8:15, so
I would
unless
like,
George is willing to amend his motion.
will you yield 5 minutes to the woman who's been sitting next to you all night?
How can I possibly refuse a request like that?
Thank you.
All right. Just wanted to-
This is the only time I will yield to an
No.
extension of the meeting.
It's really just a minor thing, but I am not receiving invitations to the follow-up meetings with you and the tribe regarding our actions, and I don't expect the meetings to be scheduled around me, but when they happen, I don't get anything about what happened, and since we're not going to get to it tonight, I'm not going to hear what happened, but as the liaison, I feel like I'm accountable for that information, so if you could just make sure that,
So you got no notification, I think it was
I
December
got-
11th, right?
well, I got it when it was that day. Like, just a reminder, it's this
Oh,
day.
reminder.
But it's just not on my calendar. Like, I use my school calendar, so if.
I'll make
when
sure it's on there.
Yeah, if we can just,
And I'll send you the updated, what we do is we just keep adding to our action list, and some things are identified as done, and some things get added, and so I'll just, I think that's a shared document, but I'll make sure you get it.
it might be, it's
I'll
just,
send it to you.
I
I'll send it to you. Absolutely.
have this job and multiple other things going on. But no, it's just, I just want to make sure that I'm kind of in the SOP for when you're reaching out to the tribe to schedule those meetings. It's like I'm CC'd on those emails so that I know who's responding from the tribe and who's attending and when the meetings are, and.
I think what happened the last time is we scheduled the meeting with, you were there, but then the folks from over there needed to reschedule it, and I think that's where you weren't on the,
Oh.
possibly on the email or the conversation. I know I was sick the day they had the meeting, so I didn't actually get to go to it, which
Yeah.
I was sad about, but I'm pretty sure that's where the disconnect happened.
Yeah, I had to be forwarded that email, so I wasn't on the original, any of that stuff.
No, we did it at the meeting at the tribe.
Yeah, but
on
I
the
mean, even
30th.
prior to that even that meeting that I was
Oh.
at, I had to get forwarded that information.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, it's just like there's a missing, I'm just not on it, so just add me,
Yes.
please, that's all.
Absolutely.
Great. That's all.
All right. We're going to,
I have to say, the first part I can say. You're going to do B
three.
first, I guess.
Yeah,
I talked
there
to
you
Patty
go.
about it already.
I returned 2 minutes.
Because believe me, I'd rather leave.
no.
No, we've already adjourned.
No.
We've already done that.
8:15, so
Oh, so there's no other motion?
there's no
No.
other motion, no.
Even though it's 8:20? Just kidding.
Well, to
I'm pretty sure that that whole thing was out of order, but we should probably figure out how to do that, yeah.
So what,
Oh, you sure?
What you can do is vote, take another vote to extend the meeting,
Anytime she
Yeah, let's not.
Yeah, oh, no,
That's what I
no.
was about. you know.
so are you saying, George, just for clarification, that your motion ended even the executive session?
No, I said to enter into executive session at 8:15.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so we do have a motion.
That was, yep.
It was all done. We've
It
done
was
it.
all
done
done.
at 6:30.
Okay,
We voted on it.
So everybody needs to
So-
leave.
we are going to move into executive session. Thank you.